Welcome to SunnySpeaks. Here again with another review for you, and you. And today, I am going to talk about Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, starring Daniel Craig, Drew Starkey, and Jason Schwartzman. This is the second film that I believe Luca Guadagnino has done this year, and I am becoming a very big fan, honestly. The story follows William Lee, played by Daniel Craig, who is struggling to find real connection with the men that he is attracted to in 1950s Mexico City, until he meets Eugene Allerton, played by Drew Starkey, and then it becomes a cat and mouse game of emotions and sexual tension. That's the simple concept of this story, but for me, what I took from this movie is a sense of longing, a sense of wanting to belong, but feeling unfamiliar with yourself and unfamiliar with the external reality that you exist in. Daniel Craig does a great job playing William Lee. He is relatable, but also very dangerous. Honestly, he has a quality to himself where the more that you see what he's longing for, the more you fear for Eugene and question what his motives are. And I appreciate that in this movie, it goes dark. It goes as dark as I thought it was going to go, but not in the way that I expected. I thought it was going to end in some sort of bloodshed or more volatile consequences, but the consequences are just as dire, but more emotionally traumatic. And I thought that was a really interesting way to take this story. Drew Starkey does a great job playing Eugene Allerton. He has a very cold exterior, but yet you can see the light within himself in certain moments with Daniel Craig's character, but also with other characters that he interacts with. And you're seeing it through Daniel Craig or William Lee's eyes. So everything with him is very distant and very hard to connect to, but yet if you step outside of William Lee's perspective, you can see that this is a human being and somebody who is longing for something as well, just in a different way. And I thought that he did a really great job of showing that shield that a person can have over their life and having that protective shield over their life, but yet showcasing the humanity within himself. This movie does a great job of showing the hypersexuality that people can have, especially at a time like the 1950s and in a place like Mexico City for white men who are homosexual. I think that it's a very, like, when you find the people who are similar to you, it's very hard to not try to just get your shit off and do the things that you want to do, the things that you've been thinking about and wanting to do for a while, the things that you keep inside, and also showcasing the damaging and detrimental effects of hypersexuality and not looking at people but as things to consume and to be inside and to be a part of. And I really appreciated that part of it because I think with William Lee's character, I really connected to the longing and believing that the act of sex, the act of being with somebody intimately in that way, that will solve your problems with the person and that will bridge the gap, when in actuality that's just a way to intensify and to push forward what you feel for a person rather than being the thing that brings you together, at least in my opinion. And I think the movie is trying to showcase that as well. My two favorite parts of this film are the cinematography and the soundtrack. The cinematography is very beautiful and almost looks like a soundstage at times. The movie definitely seems like it uses a lot of CGI, but it always felt very lived in. I honestly a lot of times wanted to jump through the screen how beautiful some of the shots were, and they make Mexico City look very easy to be entranced by, but also shows how desolate it was at that time, I guess, and how dirty and dark it can be, the seedy corners that people are trying to act out their most primal urges, but there is beauty there. And it doesn't just take place in Mexico City too, it showcases other parts of South America, and I really loved the aesthetic of this film. It has a very like film grainy vibe, also being very modern as well, and I thought it was really cool. The soundtrack in this movie, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, they come back from working with Luca on Challengers, which was another soundtrack I thought was really cool, but this one I would argue is even better. I really loved the songs in this movie, man. Like, this is the first movie where maybe ever, but definitely from doing my reviews, this is the first movie where I legitimately had to pull out my phone and was doing Shazams or using the Shazam app, because man, some of these songs were really, really cool. They were playing a lot of Mexican bands and a lot of like alternative rock music that really fit the aesthetic of the film, and many different montages they do or slow moments, and the music really enhanced my experience as a viewer in the audience. Like I was saying, there are many scenes where people aren't even talking. This is a very quiet film. And there are moments where characters experience dialogue, and that's how you get exposition. But there are a lot of moments where there's just a slow zoom, or you're just seeing a character doing something. And I really appreciated those moments too, because it has a methodical and meditative vibe throughout. Didn't really see any trailers for it, so I didn't really know what to expect, and I really liked the tranquil vibe of it and how elusive and, like I said, methodical and meditative this movie was. I think that's the best way to describe this movie for the first 2 parts of it. This movie is split up into 3 parts, and I will get into the 3rd part right now. The 3rd part of this movie was where things got very weird. At first, like how I said, it's a very quiet movie, but it has moments where characters are just talking and are just having real conversations that can be exposition, but exposition done well because it's 2 characters having conversations about life. But then there's a certain item or thing that William Lee wants to go get to enhance the relationship that he and Eugene have together. So they travel to this place in the forest, and when that happens, when it gets to the 3rd part of this movie, that's when things get divisive. There wasn't a lot of people at the showing that I was watching this at, and by the 3rd act, people were walking out, and I had to kind of laugh to myself at how bizarre things got, but also that people were leaving because I understand it. There are moments in between in the first 2 acts that show dreamlike sequences, but the 3rd act is really when it ramps up, and then it becomes just colors and colors and colors, and it's like, oh, do you get it? Do you understand what's happening? And for me, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand at all a lot of what was being shown. But even though I felt that way, I do think on rewatch, I could appreciate those scenes even more, because things that weren't even being fully said, I really appreciated. There's so many visual moments in the film where it's showing something without it actually happening, and I really connected to that. Again, the feeling of longing and wanting something that you don't even know will make you feel better. I felt that. I think that last act, with maybe some more context, maybe reading the book that it's based on by William S. Burroughs, it's actually about his life. I think that maybe reading that book would allow me to understand those last parts of the movie a little bit more. But I do understand why people would not care to watch the movie or to sit through the rest of the stuff, because even though it's not jarring, or like, actually I would say it's jarring, but I wouldn't say that it's hard to sit through. It's not uncomfortable. It's just, it doesn't explain at all what's happening, and it's really just whatever you want to pull from that. And I understand that type of filmmaking can be annoying, or it can be avant-garde in a bad way. Some people don't want to go to movies to see that. Sometimes people just want to get the story that they are being told and not have to do homework or do whatever. And I do understand that. I really do. But despite me believing that the last act of this film is the worst part of it, I still enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the movie overall. I think it was beautiful visually. The acting is great. Daniel Craig does an incredible job playing William Lee. Drew Starkey is great. Jason Schwartzman didn't really do a lot for me, but I think that the heart in his character was cool. The humorous aspects of him I didn't really find that funny or interesting, but I enjoyed every actor in this, and I think they all gave it a lot, and I really appreciated their performances. The directing is great. Cinematography, like I said, is great. The soundtrack's my favorite part. I genuinely enjoyed myself through really all of it, even when it got weird. I appreciated and related to the main character and their struggle with sexuality and how to control themselves when seeking connection with a human being. I think that stories like that could help people who feel that way, like myself, or if you feel that way on the other side of the screen. I would give this movie a partly sunny rating. I am becoming a very big Luca Guadagnino fan from seeing Challengers, which might crack my top 10 list. I think about that movie a lot. This movie, Queer, that I really enjoyed a lot. I saw Bones and All this year for the first time, and I didn't even want to see that movie because I thought it was going to be very boring or very pretentious, but truly almost everything I've seen from him I really appreciate. I don't want to watch Call Me By Your Name because I just think that movie's a little problematic because Timothée Chalamet's character in that is a teenager, I believe, having sex with a grown man, and I don't want to even put that into my psyche or to look at Luca in a negative way because of that type of storytelling. And I don't know if that's based on a book or if that was an original idea, but I just kind of want to not go to that one, even though I bet it still looks visually great. But Luca Guadagnino is becoming one of my favorite directors out right now, and his pairing with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for his sounds, I love the soundscapes that he creates in his films. I think that they are, it's so unique, and I think it's real filmmaking. I think that sometimes in the year 2024, I think real artists doing real art is something that we should cherish and appreciate while we still have it, because we don't know how long it'll be. Again, I would give this movie a partly sunny rating. I really enjoyed it. If you've seen Queer, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you haven't, let me know if this review makes you want to go see it or not. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and peace.